they tell you that you don't really need a scientist or a genius to give you an indication as to which part is Guatemala, which part is Belize, because the Guatemalan side is cleared out, but the Belizean side, you see the forest. And so you often hear them saying when they ask them, how comes they're doing these sorts of activities in Belize? The excuse is, well, we didn't know.
Yeah,
we didn't know. But you're telling me that there are times when people deliberately remove those markers.
Deliberately.
So if you're removing those markers, then you know that you're coming into Belize.
Precisely.
Right? And so that to me is a non-excuse.
Yeah, non-excuse.
You know, that's a non-excuse. And then in terms of the farming, they have to clear. We saw where huge acreages were just burned down, and then they were burned down specifically for planting things like cornfields. And so the minute you know you have to burn down something, you don't know you're in a Belize.
Exactly.
Because it's forested. So again, one excuse, you know, and if there's no border presence, I recall a time when Belizean authorities were putting down a conservation post, and there was I don't know if it was an official or a unofficial protest, but there was concern raised from the Guatemalan side that, you know, you guys are trying to militarize the border, and this is contrary to the confidence building measures.
Yeah.
And so there was friction over an observation post, and an observation post is put there because of these
I remember that
concerns.
incident. That was at Machakilha.
Exactly.
And that the OAS had ordered, they built the conservation post in one location which was close to the borderline.
They had to
and
move
the Guatemalans protest, and they had to move that. Right? So
and
Belizeans had to sacrifice.
Belizean territory.
And now when you go to that observation post, you know, the relationship has become very kind of cozy, and they try to play it off. Guatemalan come and clean around the military. One of our guys from the territorial volunteers, he goes there all the time, Sub, and he's telling me that the Guatemalans come there and they clean up the place for the military, and then the military then becomes cozy with them, so then they just turn their head when they're extracting all these resources. So, you know, you could go there sometimes, and if you search Sub was telling me, if you search the yard, if you go to the dump pile, there's nothing, a lot of Guatemalan beer and all kinds of stuff is there on the other side there. So they're like drinking up the Guatemalan beer and then, you know, having a good time. And this is as per Sub, and he had said this right on the PGTV and Prem Radio publicly, that he saw it with his own eyes, and he was just shocked. And these people, they are not doing anything when the Guatemalans come over. So we need to have a constant presence, and we have to, and the villagers are getting, they are getting more and more concerned, because now the Guatemalans are moving. They're within a few hundred yards of Poita village itself.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
then we saw a
continue to push
recent
forward.
report where indications are that the Guatemalans will be sending their special forces more into Petén and into the adjacency zone area.
Caibiles.
Yes, and so that's another area of concern. But Paco,
Yes.
Belize Coalition for Justice, I know that shares some of these very same concerns, and so the natural connection with Belize Territorial Volunteers.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would just like to touch on a few things. First off, good night, everyone. Thank you very much for having us here. I hate to deviate a bit, but go Miami Heat. Yeah.
Are you trying to send our viewers?
No.
Be careful.
Yeah.
There will be a game 7. Yeah, absolutely, Adele. With regards to the issues that are facing Belizeans, both at home and abroad, and I'd like to express that Belizeans abroad are also attuned to this situation. We have a lot of things going on. You have this, as I will say, people may not like the terminology that I use to describe it, but we have this unbalanced, idiotic compromise that we signed to in 2008, which in fact provided Guatemala with an enabling environment, whereby they've manipulated the entire process. And I've been very vocal about it. Will has been very vocal about it with regards to how our so-called leaders have just basically sit back and allowed Guatemala to run rampant upon us. We can cite numerous examples of this happening. The most recent one, and I'll be specific with it, because a lot of times when you're arguing your point, people like to try and manipulate what you say. I'm not talking about yourself, but I'm talking about individuals who are out there that are blatantly pushing this agenda to go to the ICJ. And from the BCJ standpoint, and also that of the Belize Territorial Volunteers, I'm referring to the instance where Guatemala's president, through its foreign minister, categorically said that, you know what, I don't care about the agreement that we're going to have a simultaneous referendum on the 6th of October. We're not ready for it, so we won't do it. If you'll recall, the Belize delegation went to an urgent meeting in Washington at the OAS headquarters, whereby, within my humble perspective, we had the upper hand on Guatemala. Because people will say, oh, well, no, they didn't violate the compromise, the special agreement per se. But if you look back in the archives, what they did is they violated the agreement to the date. And they made a big hullabaloo out of it, because I went to the OAS archives and I found the press release. And oh yes, the governments of Guatemala and Belize have decided on this date, the 6th of October 2013. Yeah. So from that perspective, excuse me, the BCJ is looking at it as a matter of principle. You know that the BCJ is calling on all civil society entities, individuals, Belizeans, both at home and abroad, to support the effort to boycott the referendum. We're asking them to boycott the referendum on the basis of principle. Principle being that there was an agreement. Both parties signed this agreement. That is the agreed upon date. And all of a sudden, Guatemala chooses to renege on that. And more importantly, or more disturbingly, our authorities on this side basically acquiesce. Meaning that they just said, oh, well, you don't want to do it, it's okay, let me work with you. Belize has to stand up for itself. I will be very, very blunt in what I say, in that I'm not satisfied. A lot of people are not satisfied, both here in Belize and abroad, with regards to the representation that we have at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that is dealing with this issue. It has been a whole hodgepodge of, how can I say, I'm being judicious when I say this, but miscalculations on their behalf. There are many instances